Welcome to Daggers and Shadow Daddies.
We're your hosts, Ryan and Adriana.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Quick disclaimer, this is a reread for Fourth Wing and Iron Flame as we prepare for the book Onyx Storm. Spoilers ahead. I want to bring up when Violet was walking through the meadow and she's sharing a story about her mom and how she truly thought that her mom was a venom and she was scared, and she asked her dad this because she came home one night with bloodshot eyes. And Brennan made fun of her, all these things. I want to know what you were thinking when you listened to this part.
It's odd that she would have the awareness to be like, venom. Is that the only time she's ever seen her mother tired throughout her entire upbringing? You know what I mean?
That was also kind of part of it where her mom took away the book, the fables, because she read it so many times to the point that she was accusing her mom of being a venom.
Identifying people. What I find interesting about this, though, knowing what we know from later on, Violet doesn't pick up on any of the signs that Jack is.
That's what I was just thinking. She doesn't see any of it.
No.
She even points out his red eyes on the mat later.
Yeah. But she's like, last person I accused of me of venom took away my books.
Not doing that again.
Man, it's going to be a little dry in this part of this one. Only because, again, I don't want to beat up on Violet. And Violet isn't the character that I like yet. Does that make sense? So for the first parts of this book, she's beginning to get the building blocks of who I enjoy later. But she isn't there yet. Does that make sense? The way she conquers the gauntlet, like, I don't know. Like, I liked it. I liked that she was like, don't worry, I got a plan. I'm going to make it. And she's like, I knew I was going to use this dagger, so I made sure I looked up section 130, blah, 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 subsection B of this rule.
I thought she had it memorized.
Maybe she does.
She has the entire Codex memorized.
You know what? I believe that. But I guess with that understanding, it makes it less odd. But I really enjoyed that she did it. What blows my mind is the idea where she's like, hey guys, the right way isn't the only way. Like every time she does that right now, I'm just like, yes, and you're doing nothing the prescribed method. Like nothing.
I was trying to draw out how she was going through this gauntlet thing because I could not create anything. There were too many descriptions and I got lost. Your Ninja Warrior course example as a way to as a way to understand what she's doing with the rope, and I think I kind of got it.
I would like it drawn out because I also found it a little difficult to understand. The way that she used it to scale the sheer side, where she was like, it was like draped over a boulder, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't figure out where the ropes are hanging from is my challenge in visualizing that.
I saw it as there's a rope hanging and she pulls it around a corner, which now it is hanging in front of where she needs to climb up, as she uses it to climb. But the higher up she goes, the tighter it gets, and it's getting closer to the edge at the top left corner for me in my head. But yeah, just a big skating ramp up.
Where's the rope tied to?
We don't imagine that part. It just is.
Okay, because I was just like, that's the part that I kept having trouble visualizing, is I was like, oh, the ropes are there, so like if you're falling off the side, you could use this rope. And I thought, well, how would she be able to reach that far out to get it and then pull it over? There must be, the securement position of the rope is clearly different than it is in my head.
I wonder if we need to search this up. I bet somebody is taking the time to actually draw this all out and figure it out.
You think?
Yeah, I bet so. I bet someone took the time.
It'd be worth looking into. While you're doing that, I'm going to pick on the tagline of this book. The tagline is fly or die. You may fly and die. It's not an either or. And long before you get to fly, you may die. It's more like fly and or die would be far more accurate. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, those aren't the options. You're either going to fly or you're going to die. Fly or don't fly and come back again next year. The Sawyer story.
Oh my God, I finally found someone that explained the rope part. This is Evelyn. I don't know what the symbol is. A line, digital diary. And she shows the rope being pulled into this. That's where the chimney is, where it goes both sides, where I think people hop up. Does that make sense?
No. It should, but the rope moving through the obstacle would allow you to scale it vertically by just applying pressure.
Yeah.
The rope being off the side of it would just apply rotational force to you while you're trying to scale it.
She kind of talks about that a bit, but also I was getting confused by the skateboard ramp thing. That is the last part that we hadn't seen. I was picturing that was the part that she was struggling with. The chimney. It also makes sense now that I finally looked at some pictures why it's called the chimney.
Yeah, it does make sense. What does not make sense is her being able to use the rope that way to go up through it.
Whenever I see those little chimney things, I think of Mario, where you do your little backflips and hops. Yeah, you get like a triple, quadruple jump.
Well, in like in Ninja Warrior, you do see this obstacle. They do it.
Well, they don't do the Mario tricks, but yeah, you do see the obstacle.
You see the obstacle. They don't do the Mario tricks. They also don't do the rope trick. It's a different game.
Makes so much more sense. That was the only person that included explaining the rope and how the rope was involved.
It makes less sense to me now, though, for how she actually managed to scale it. Does that make sense?
Because you're getting into actual physics and thinking about what the rope would be doing and what it would be like as it's really tight as she's halfway up it and it's bent around the corner.
Well, I mean, she's not even getting halfway, pulling hard on the rope. The rope, if you're pulling hard against the rope wants to take you to where the rope is. So it's pulling you out away from that wall the whole time. Is she going up the side of it? Is she not really between the two, maybe? I don't know. I'm going to choose to not visualize that part. Doesn't matter. I can't make it work in my head, and I think it works within the book. I just misunderstand.
I think that's fine. I was struggling also. Chapter 11.
Bankruptcy. I'm going to make that joke in every single book we do.
Did you in the last one?
Yeah, every single time.
I don't think I caught that.
It's the reorganization part. I believe I also made that joke last time.
Chapter 11 is right after the moment that her and Xaden had their little pep talk in the corridor as she was done burning Orly's things.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go into chapter 11. I saved this quote. He who does not burn for Malek will be burned by Malek.
Right.
It was very ominous.
I think it kind of goes into old world religions. They kind of have this where like you send this person to this deity or that deity gets kind of pissy about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the if you don't pray, you go to hell thing.
But it's not anything that means something, right? There aren't bad things to come for those who don't do this.
No, I think it's more like your soul will be eternally condemned in a negative way. Not to Malek. It seems like your soul being condemned to Malek is the goal. He's their Jesus.
Oh. I guess what my question was, is there going to be real world consequences to Violet for not burning things later down the road?
No.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Because in real life, I think religion's fake. I have to assume religion is also fake in their world.
That's what my assumption is, but it was really ominous.
Dragons are real in their world.
True.
So what the fuck do I know?
They are in formation, and she's noticing patches on cadets. I found this little tidbit odd and out of place, which made me feel like it might have meaning, where she notices the patches. She notes a circular patch with water and floating spheres in case she needs to defeat these cadets later.
So their patches denote not just signets, but also areas in which they are proficient, right?
Okay. What do you think
this from
that
Eric's.
is?
I have no idea. They're really good at swimming.
Water bending.
They're waterbenders. That could be. Maybe their signet is water.
I don't know, but it was just odd that she would take note of their patches and be like, I might need to defeat you later.
Well, she gets this idea because of Dain and his secret signet patch, which basically says, you don't get to know my signet, it's classified. Then you've got Xaden, who refuses to wear any patches other than the ones that identify which wing and all that crap he belongs to, right? There's no special identifier on him. She talks about these people. They got the water one and blah, blah, blah. So I think she's like, well, I guess I can't drown them. Like, I'm guessing that's what she's going to use to her advantage. I don't recall if that ever comes up again.
Not yet.
Well, it was an idea she had.
Yeah, she's just like, those patches. I need to remember your faces and these patches for future.
Too bad she's not like remembering some combat strategies and stuff. Like, imagine if she were doing that. You're going out in the middle of the night and collecting berries and stuff to poison people with. Maybe do some push-ups, Violet. Just something.
Have some protein.
Yeah, anything. Come on.
At this point, there are 171 cadets, but only 100 dragons.
Yes, 100 dragons, 171 cadets. There were thousands of cadets to start with. We're going to have empty wings.
Really? There were that many? No.
When she first talks about it, there were thousands lined up at Parapet.
Not at Parapet. I think there were thousands there because all of the
conscription day?
Yeah, all of the scribes, all of the infantry, all of those other...
Okay. All right. I thought there were like thousands of people attempting to get through Parapet. And then it was like, well, we dropped off 25% of them there. And at this point, they're still the first whole squad up. Well, no. Their buddy dies.
Can't find how many cadets they're started with, but there's 171 right now.
Yep. Which means 70 people aren't getting dragons.
Yeah. Or 70 need to die.
Well, several of them do get cooked.
Yes, and I check in later with another note of where we're at before they go out there. At this point, she questions if there are checks and balances for Xaden's level of power. She is wondering about, is anyone checking to make sure that he isn't abusing his level of power?
Oh, see, I took this differently. What are the trade-offs? What is his limit? I think that's kind of a checks and balances. Like Naolan, right? Naolan? Whatever it was, who tried to revive her brother, right? The checks and balances would be, he was incredibly powerful, but even he couldn't bring somebody back to life, right? That was kind of the check in that whole thing. There was an upper limit to what it was he could do with it.
Oh, I was taking it as you have a third year who could be possibly stronger than any higher ranking personnel above him.
Yeah, and I don't think they could keep that in check because it isn't up to them. That's the dragon's decision, right? Because your power is kind of a reflection of how strong your dragon is and then how your will, blah, blah, blah. Well, when the dragon chooses to be homies with this person, you as a human don't have a say. Your job is not to question the dragons.
So why are the humans choosing really anything?
To do what?
I don't know, just their hierarchy and all of that. When it's really dragon hierarchy with the level of power each human has.
Yeah, but this isn't a society entirely built on power like the other one.
True. Yeah.
It is a society built on influence. And with a shitload of power, obviously, you gain some influence. But ultimately, it's kind of your ability to use that power and in which ways you would use it to where you could ascend.
Okay. But yeah, that's how I took the checks and balances, was keeping him in check with the level of power that he has.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I just took it different.
She's talking with Dain. Dain is continuing to beg her not to do the gauntlet, says he would never run away to be a scribe. When she uses that as an example, like, would you go be a scribe? He's like, no, that's different because I'm a writer. And that was so painful because he does not see her in any way as becoming a writer.
Well, until she gets a dragon, to be fair, she's not.
Even then, when I thought about afterwards, we haven't gotten there yet, I still don't think he gives her the same respect he does other writers.
Absolutely not. He's more vested in her, to be fair. Like, and again, I'm not a Dain sympathizer, but devil's advocate here. If you spend 2 years just watching people's names be read every morning on the roll of people that die every day there, that's not a place that you want to see a loved one.
No.
Like, I think there is an argument to be made for Dain's a little unstable because of this. It's weirder than nobody else is. I think Dain's perspective is shitty, but it makes sense.
I think he's the only one there who can feel that way. Mom's not there, sister's not there.
But they know.
They know, but they're not there to be begging her or to be pushing her.
Day in and day out. No, you're right. And mom would never say no because mom's a little fucking squirrely, to be honest. Mira at least was like, hey, mom, don't be a dipshit. She'll die. Like, Mira tried. And then Mira's like, hey, one way or another, all I can do is try to help you survive because mom's never going to let you not be here.
Yeah.
But Dain does also have a bit of a redeeming moment later. I don't know if you caught this.
I don't think he's seen again after this before she goes on the gauntlet.
No, here's a redeeming moment between the gauntlet and when she walks out in the field. I can't remember what they call that again.
What was it?
Or whatever. He says, let's just run, basically. As in, he would go with her.
Oh, as in, this is so important to me, I'm even willing to leave.
Yeah. Yeah, the way it's worded is let's, or we.
I just wrote him off. I didn't catch that. I was just like, Dain again.
No, here's the thing.
Stop.
I totally agree. Every time Dain comes up in this, I'm like, motherfucker, this guy's annoying. I don't like Dain. But I thought that was an interesting moment.
I think it showed how much he truly cares about her.
I think this is all about how much he cares about her. In his own fucky way, none of it is self-serving.
Yeah, that's true. Well, sad for Dain. Well, in this scene, he was being annoying and hurtful.
He was.
Because he's just like, well, I would never run away to be a scribe. That makes no sense because I'm a writer. And she's like,
you're a weak little frail thing.
Yeah. And she's like, well, what if I am? What if I could be a writer? I'm not doing it. And he's just not getting it.
He treats it the same way that, we all have that friend that they get to drinking and they're like, I could be a professional at this or that, blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, okay, buddy, you're not. This isn't going to go well.
Do you remember when our son did this? He watched a video that my mom showed him of world's greatest kids type of thing, like tricks, not world's greatest kids.
A definitive video, a list, the top 10 greatest kids.
I meant
the worst day of their life is when they turn 18. Now you're just an adult.
I meant like kids doing cool things.
Very talented children.
Yeah. And there was this one kid old enough to be talented enough to be doing incredible skateboard tricks. It was just amazing. Better than any adult, really. And our son's like, I could do that. And you're like, what? And he's like, yeah, I could totally do that. And we're like, no, you can't. He's like, yeah, I can. And the first thing that you did was go out and get a skateboard and you set it down in front of him and he tried and he was just like, oh, well.
Listen, it was not about crushing his confidence. We're going to get a little side tangent here. One of the things lost with the way that the internet and social media works is the amount of effort it takes to achieve these things that people do. It doesn't matter if that's singing or whatever sort of expression of talent or practice.
Yeah, you don't see them practice ever. You just see the talent at its highest level.
Yeah, and even when you see them fail a couple times, you're not going to watch a video that is 600 hours of somebody fucking it up. You're going to watch, oh, they fucked it up for 2 minutes and now look at them, triumphant win. You're like, yeah, behind that, before that 2 minutes, there was a lot that went into that. Very few people are good at something immediately.
Well, either way, Dain sucks right now.
Yeah, Dain sucks in general.
She flies through the course. There wasn't much written about her going through the course because we've already heard it several times.
Literally until we get up to
the chimney.
The chimney. And she magically bends a rope around a corner and that works for her.
Because we're not going to imagine that anymore.
No, you're right. It's a magic rope.
There's a TikTok that worked for me.
Fair enough. Two-dimensional because the rope could just go through the wall.
So for the chimney, she chooses a time delay by grabbing a rope to use to climb.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised that this isn't used more often and that it was so frowned upon to have the time delay. But if you can excel much quicker by using ropes, why not continue doing it? How much is the time delay?
30 seconds, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is quite a bit. Using several ropes would add quite a lot.
Here's the real kicker. It doesn't fucking matter. Your time does not matter. They express this in so many different ways. Your time makes no difference other than you're not the first one to run out there and talk to a dragon. So why the fuck do you care if you're first or last? Like, you're worried somebody else is going to go pick up your dragon?
I think the dragons want to see the best first. From best to worst.
Sawyer says the people who went through a first fear before were passed over, and the very last person to go through became a rider. It makes no actual difference. When Violet's looking for her dragon, what she says is, I don't feel compelled to go one direction or the other. I didn't feel a bond with any of them. That means there's sort of a predestined thing going on there, right? A fate.
Yes.
And if that is how this works, it makes fucking sense that it doesn't matter when anybody walks out there. So you know what? Use all the ropes. Who cares? What are they going to do? Make you wait for 50 minutes before you walk out there with everybody else? Like, okay, fine. Well, I'll out there by myself. I don't give a shit.
Tynan was threatening to kill her if she was slow.
Yeah. Oops. We accidentally tripped Tynan and he fell off the cliff. I don't know, man. He's a solvable problem.
I'm surprised. Wait a minute. I think he is solved.
Yeah, he gets solved.
Yeah. No, he is not solved.
Really?
Yep. I wrote down the names of who was taken care of.
Who was solved? Well, the annoying girl.
Yeah.
Sorry, we'll get to that.
So she gets up through the chimney, uses this trick, all of this, and I like the moments where Ridoc is cheering for her. Like, Ridoc and Sawyer have been such good friends to her, more than I realized the first time when I listened to this.
They're supportive of her as a squad mate. She isn't their friend yet.
Yeah.
She's a squad mate. She is a part of their community, and they're taking this shit seriously. I love it.
And they treat her no differently because they are marked ones and she's not or anything. There isn't this difference in how they're treating her.
No. Is Sawyer a marked one?
I think so, yeah. Wait a minute.
I don't think so. Because Sawyer, Ridoc, and Imogen being in the same place would be an issue.
No, Sawyer is not a marked one.
That's what I thought.
Ridoc is.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that compliment just goes to Ridoc then.
I mean, still to Sawyer.
Yeah.
It's not the marked ones that all want her dead. Jack Barlow's not a marked one. He's just an asshole.
Yeah, but
Tynan is just an asshole.
I just thought that all the marked ones really wanted her dead. There were some that were seeing it as, hey guys, leave this up to Xaden kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Or overall, this isn't worth our time. She is Brennan's sister, was. Really wish that I caught that. I want to go back and look that up. But anyways, yeah, I just assumed that none of them really liked her and it was more of a mutual respect. But in this situation, he was cheering for her.
I think he's defended her with the Dain thing. He brought up the time not mattering through the gauntlet thing for her. I think Sawyer's been a good dude.
Yeah.
And I don't think it takes anything away that he's not a marked one, because the marked ones seem, at this moment, they're indifferent or they dislike her, right?
Yep.
But ultimately, there's plenty of non-marked ones that still would like to murder Violet. Violet is not good at making friends, and I kind of get it. Like, I wouldn't want to murder her if I was going to school with her, but also, I'd be shitful of her stuff, too. Like, oh, Smarty Pants McGillicuddy out here poisoning people instead of actually fighting them. Like, oh, I deserve to get poisoned because you got called with me to fight? Like, god damn.
The rumors about Dain go around, but no rumors about the poisoning.
This is it. These people.
I'm surprised.
Fucking children.
I'm just fueling your fire.
It is the most irritating part of this book to me so far. And then Violet being brilliant and then having moments where 200 pounds. I have to mention it when we get there.
Okay.
When we get there.
I'm
just going to keep drumming it.
Ridoc cheers for her. Then she's at the last level. She never even practiced this. I'm surprised she didn't fail a little bit and try again, and that's when she succeeds, but she got it on her first try. She uses her dagger to make the climb, and I have the note, I bet Xaden was turned on watching this.
Okay, so I had almost the opposite thought of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and only because she stabs the dagger into the wood about a foot shy of where the goal was to reach and pull yourself up, right? I don't see that as an issue at all. I would say the fact that she was able to pull herself up, like she was able to stab this dagger that far into the wood. That's a lot of fucking force she's applied.
It's rotten wood.
And
it's really old.
Sharp dagger that is able to support her body weight, just pulling herself up on there. Basically a one-arm pull-up, right? Because it's a dagger. Like, it's a tiny little knife. She gets herself up there. She grabs on. She throws herself up over the edge. I was impressed, to be fair. Because I'm like, there's a lot of core strength involved in this whole thing.
So you don't think that turned Xaden on?
No. I think if Xaden was turned on by anything, it was when the other bitchy wing leader came over and was giving her shit. And Violet was like, I know rules better than you know rules. And then hit her with rules. And then I think Xaden's just like, that's my girl. Like, she's a dweeb and I'm into it. Does that make sense?
It does.
I mean,
I thought
when he said the right way is not the only way, what did he think she was going to do? I'm too short to do this. Like, that is the solution. Give me a third option.
I just assumed that he liked it, I guess, a little more than you did.
No, I think he probably liked it, but I think he can like it without getting horned up. If I've learned anything, we talk about saunas. Your first inclination is always about wieners.
What?
Not everything affects his wiener. He can appreciate her as a person without being turned on.
Okay, maybe turned on is what you're getting caught up on, of him liking her more.
I'm in trouble. I like the way you say it accusatory toward me. You specifically said turned on, and all I said was, no, I don't think he was turned on. I think he just liked it. And you're like, don't be an idiot.
Don't be dumb. That's not what I said, even though it's what I said.
Roll tape.
So she makes it through the course, through the gauntlet. Do you think
summits the course?
Do you think she cheated?
No, I mean, she explained how it was fine.
And you were content with that? Amber was not happy with that.
Yeah, because Violet seemed to have had a plan. If something goes according to plan, and it's something like this where everybody could do that, I don't think that's such a big deal. I think the difference with the poisoning people thing would be if other people, let's say her instructors knew she was poisoning people before the fights, would it be okay within the rulebook? No? Then that's cheating. Like, just because people don't know what you're doing doesn't make it okay. This was something done in the broad daylight, and she had a defense for it. So I think it was good.
All right. And I do think you were right as far as Xaden liking the moment more of when she mouthed off with the rules, quoting the Codex, because I have this quote from Violet. I didn't miss the hint of a smirk on his infuriatingly indecadent mouth of his.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the point where, like I said, when she's being an assertive dickhead, he can find that attractive actively. I think her struggling through and making it up there, you can be proud of her. I think this is a different thing. He's not like, I get so horny when she barely overcomes an obstacle.
Yes.
I think it's more like, God damn, she's brilliant. And I think you can.
I get it. So they all make it through. I was surprised nobody died in this part, but they already killed off someone in the last one. So they're like, not doing that again. Chapter 12. We're now down to 169 cadets.
Nice.
And their squad placed 11th out of 36.
That's pretty good, even with Violet cheating.
Oh my God.
Season.
So it starts off with presentation day. That was the day that you were talking about where they walk through the meadow and they stay about 7 feet apart. There's rumors of a feather tail, so we get to hear a little bit about Indarna, which is really exciting. It made me really sad hearing how everybody talked about her. I forgot how sad that was and how unkind everyone was to what she...
Well, not everyone.
Okay, many.
The assholes and then the lady who got cooked.
There were a lot of assholes, and I didn't like all of the sad and Darna hate, where they're just like, she's so weak, she's so small, so ugly.
Nobody could guess that it's a small dragon. Like, that's the part that really cracks me up. We've never seen one this color. It must be full grown. Like, what the fuck? Little idiots. Also, I think I noticed something in this, and maybe this is just me being a conspiracy theorist. So, more spoiler shit. We know that Jack Barlow is Venom.
Yes.
He's the one who's really propagating this. We should kill her. Do you think that the Venom know that she is a different breed of dragon than everybody else there? That she would be needed to power the Ward Stone?
Not that I know of.
Well, it's not a definitive thing. It's conspiracy theory. I'm posing it from the aspect of Jack is vehemently proposing we kill that baby dragon. You would not risk pissing off every other dragon there unless you had a really good reason to want that dragon dead. In the idea that, well, if somebody bonds to her, it'll make our whole wing weaker. Your wing is never judged based off a cumulative power of the dragons in it. Ever. worst case scenario, this person gets killed out in combat.
The only reason I didn't think so was because the same excuses he was using for why they should kill Violet were the same excuses he was giving for killing Andarna.
Yeah, other than you still get to bond a dragon and, all of dragonkind doesn't want to murder you for killing Violet. The risk versus reward is different. The cost of killing Violet is nothing.
But
the cost of killing a dragon is fucking enormous. And they kind of hit that.
But it wasn't just him who was wanting to do it, Barlow. It was also Tynan and one other person, right?
He convinced them that it was for the safety of their wing. And then Violet also says, where is he getting any of this information that he's spouting off? We don't know anything about Feathertails, but he's acting like he has information.
Oh, maybe.
I'm not saying this is a for sure thing, but I'm saying I can't dismiss the theory based on he's doing the same thing with Violet, because that's it'd be like gambling with $50,000 versus buying a $1.50 lottery ticket. Well, it's the same action. The cost is so different. Does that make sense? And he's using the methodology of convincing other people using the same one he's using for Violet. But why wouldn't you? It was effective for Violet. It convinced these other people to want Violet dead also.
Yeah, no, this makes sense because I found it wild that they were willing to do this in front of Sigale.
In front of any other dragon. And it's not like they would manage to murder a dragon and then get away with it. Jack's big line when he's got Andarna cornered is, I'll make it painless. That's it.
There's a theory out there that her dad is actually Venom.
Who?
Violet's dad.
Oh, I feel like that just came from nowhere.
And he was the one that did research on Feathertails.
This could be. That would be neat. Because it just comes off like Jack knows something. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And the way he's giving them all information while they're doing their promenade thing or whatever. I don't know. Seems odd. His information doesn't seem incredibly accurate, but it...
Yeah, I just saw him as a jackass, but I didn't consider that he might play a bigger part because they bring him back to life.
He remains alive.
Yeah, it's weird. Why? Yeah, I don't get why he would do it other than, something like that there's more to the story and more to his motivation than just he hates tiny things. I don't know.
I hate frail things. And you're like, really? I don't know, man. And then he picks the most easily confusable dragon, right? He picks an orange dragon. And the orange dragons are not bullheaded necessarily. Their reasoning is sort of meh. They're the dumbest dragons.
I'm glad you remember that, because I did not remember what type of dragon he got.
I will. Yeah. I'm on the lookout for this shit now.
It's recommended that they talk to each other as they're going through the meadow for presentation day. She notices the brown dragons, and that is what her mom's dragon is.
Yeah, which I thought is kind of funny.
I don't remember anything about brown dragons, though. Do you?
No, not a damn thing.
Yeah, me either.
I kind of forgot that there were brown dragons.
Yeah, I don't.
What a drab
I
dragon.
bet something was said to us, and we just don't remember.
I'm sure.
Tynan taunts Violet about how hot her sister is.
Yeah, and that's probably the most real writing going on in this fucking chapter. Everybody knows, if you have a hot sibling or a hot mom, everybody was just going to give you shit over it.
And this is when they start roasting Andarna and Violet, and it was so sad. And Tynan wants to take out Andarna. They continue on. They make it through this nearly. Ridoc is admiring all of the dragons. It's just a really amazing moment with Ridoc again, and I just really like Ridoc.
Drinking it in. Ridoc remains, through both books, one of the best characters. Ridoc and Liam are arguably, and Sawyer too, because, man, yeah.
I don't want to get my heart broken again.
Don't?
We're only on book 2.
Book 3 is when Liam comes back.
Exactly, because if Barlow can come back, Liam can definitely come back.
Yeah, but now he's vetted. No, I'm just teasing.
Oh my god. So Ridoc is admiring all of the dragons and just appreciating them for
the majestic beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luca, as annoying as she is, calls all of them underwhelming. I don't know how she wasn't toasted then.
I think they were just waiting for somebody else to do it. They're like, will this dumb bitch just keep talking? Like, we need to know. What else is she willing to just say?
Just a little huff. Just poof.
So,
And she's
just,
just gone.
she was a character that we knew was going to die because she was written to be annoying to everybody she was around, including the reader. Like, they kept reminding you, like, just so you know, this bitch is annoying. And we're like, I know, we've been hearing her too. Like, we get it. She sucks.
So she's still alive at this point, and they're continuing to talk, and Violet shares a story where she truly questioned if her mom was a Venom because of her bloodshot eyes. I thought it was just a nice moment of her thinking about her mom and her dad and her family.
Ree is a little country bumpkin. Let me learn. She's like, oh, do you know what you're going to have? And she's like, what do you mean? She's like a niece or a nephew? She's like, no, I'll ask him when I can write next year. You're like, what the fuck? Like, Violet calls it out in this chapter too. She's like, what an unnecessarily cruel thing. And Ree's like, yeah, but it's so that we form stronger bonds. And she's like, I don't think the letters were going to make us turn away from the college. Like, we're this heavily invested in it. I think our alliance will be primarily to our family and loved ones. And then the letters aren't changing that. It's just a creature comfort.
I wonder if in the past a lot of people got letters from their family begging them to run away, and that it was actually an issue with that.
Or maybe they were like rendezvousing.
Oh, yeah, making plans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, either way, I do find it ridiculous that they're not allowed to write letters to each other.
I do too. I was really upset by that.
Out of nowhere, Pryor is toasted. Just gone.
Weirdly, I'm super in support of that.
Oh, why?
He's an indecisive motherfucker. The assholes were not wrong. He was hard to listen to. It's like most people, like when something crazy comes up and they just kind of freeze in place and there's a fire happening around them and they're just like, if I don't move, I can't make the fire worse. And you're like, yeah, but you also can't put it out, motherfucker. Like, move, action.
I don't remember anything about him.
He was famously indecisive.
Okay. I just do the, I gotta look up a new name. Pryor, how do I spell this? Toasted.
He
Gone.
comes up in like, I think the first 5 chapters because they also give him shit about, somebody asks him something, he's like, and they're like, oh yeah, don't talk to him. He can't make a decision.
Then the green dragons show up, or they show up to the green dragons, and they start sniffing her, and they smell Tiny, which is Samira's dragon.
Dumb question.
Yes.
You got cool names like Sigale, Terranok. All of a sudden I forget the little one's name. It's not Delilah.
Indarna.
Indarna. Tiny is the next one. They don't name their dragons. Nobody named this dragon. This dragon's name was Tiny. Isn't that hilarious?
Cute.
It is, but it's really funny. Imagine meeting a person named Spot, but nobody named him that. Like, that was their name when they came out.
You get to choose your own name, and that's what you pick.
I think it's kind of like, hillbilly mechanics are always named Skip.
Yeah.
They're not a skipper.
The town I grew up in, there was a Skip who was a mechanic.
There has been a Skip that is a mechanic in every town everybody grew up in, because that is just what they're called. That isn't their name, right? Their name isn't Skipper.
Wait, what?
Do you think that person's legal name is Skip?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Their legal name is not Skip or Skipper.
Thought it was.
I don't think. What would it be? Like, that's the entire name? Google this. How many people are actually legally named Skip? There's no way. I assume it's more of a mantle they take on.
There are only 13,000 people named Skip.
Alive?
I don't know, but I think you've proven your point.
This is what I'm saying. They get called Skip, and then they go by that. I think it's kind of the same thing, right? Like, imagine the dragon, like, oh, what's your dragon's name? Skip. What the fuck? What's his name? And also, it's like a big, beefy dragon, right? It's like, what's my name? Tiny. Like, what? Why? Why is it tiny? I love it so much. Because it makes me giggle whenever I think about it. It's like, Mira's dragon, Tiny. And they never giggle. And I'm like, why? How? How are you not giggling? Just a little bit.
It reminds me of our nephew who named his cat Tiny Cat.
Tiny Cat, TK, and then you have Mr. Sprinkles, which would also imagine a dragon. They're going to issue the name of the dragon right in the log or the ledger or whatever. What's the name of your dragon? Mr. Sprinkles. Like, no, insanity. I do just enjoy it. It just blows my mind. Like, oh, what's your dragon? His name is Doug. Just Doug. Oh, he kind of looks like a Doug. I don't know. I'll quit. So anyway, she's wearing Skip scales.
Yeah, Skip. And then Luca is toasted, and that's the end of the chapter. Just
she trusts Rhiannon. This was the whole point of this. The whole point of them coming up and sniffing those was Rhee's like, oh my God, are you okay? And she's like, I'm wearing tiny dragon scales right now.
I'm wearing tiny scales.
I'm wearing tiny scales. She's like, don't fucking tell anybody. Rhiannon's like, secret safe, homie. But this is their first exchange of a secret.
But they kind of had a moment where Rhiannon was disappointed that Violet didn't share her plan with the gauntlet.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. This is the turning point in their friendship from being more or less friendly squad mates into actual friends.
But then it makes it all the more sad when Violet starts keeping secrets from her.
Well, no. So Violet was pretty honest. Violet's like, hey, if I need help with something that you are equipped to help with, I'll bring it up to you.
That's so particular. That's the same BS that Xaden gives Violet later.
No, the BS Xaden gives Violet is, if you ask me directly about this thing, I can tell you about it. Unless you ask the exact correct question, I've got nothing to say about it. It's slightly better than what Xaden does. I think it was kind of nice where she didn't say, yeah, don't worry, Rihanna. I'll tell you everything. She's like, if it's something that you're equipped to help me with, I will ask. And you're right. Total honesty would be so much better.
You brought up what you think Violet's second signet might be. And in this moment is what made me think of it. You brought up that it could be truth teller, where she can get the truth out of people. And then I was just thinking about, oh, what if she comes up with the right thing to say at the right time, or always knows the right question to ask?
What if Xaden knows that's her signet, and that's why he says, if you ask me the right question, I will answer it? I saw it more as her being able to compel people to tell her the truth versus just know if they're lying. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's only because I can't think of an instance. Not one instance jumps out at me, not saying there isn't one, but none jump out at me between both books where somebody has blatantly lied to Violet.
I'm going to be paying attention because we're now at the point where she just got bonded. Moving forward will be signs of signets, because there were signs of the lightning signet before we were blatantly told.
Yeah, the thing is, though, remember, your signet is a product of the dragon as well as your needs, right, are what produce the signet. I don't think she gets the signet from Indarna in this book.
I just watched a video, and I probably saved it and haven't showed you yet, where Rebecca Yarros says the signs are all over in there.
In the fourth wing or an Iron Flame?
I think she said both of them. For sure, Iron Flame.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was just going to say is when we go through Iron Flame, I'm going to be even more looking into this heavily. I don't know. I think fourth wing is so focused on Violet and Terran's inner workings, as well as Xaden and Sigale and all this. Maybe there is.
But her second signet was almost blatantly revealed at the end of Iron Flame, and then she decided not to because she thought that there weren't enough clues for us, and then she was surprised that none of us could get it, and she's like, but I'm having fun listening to your guys' theories.
Do you think that nobody got it, or do you think that people did get it, but people also got a bunch of the other shit wrong?
Yes.
Okay.
It's probably that.
That's my guess. I don't think I'm right. I'm going to go ahead and say that too. Most all of my theories are just fun things for me to think about while we're listening to this. I am not committed to any of it.
But that's where I didn't know if maybe instead it was her being able to ask the right questions. But that's not really a signet.
You brought up like teleportation?
Yeah, I thought it was teleportation similar to what she could do with Indarna with the time slowing down. It's similar to teleportation where time slows and they move so quickly that others looking at them thought that they just teleported from one spot to the next. There's a name for it.
Time dilation.
No, there's a name. The signet has a name.
Oh.
And that's what I thought it was, where she jumping from one location to the next quickly because she points out her speed.
Winnowing.
Yeah, winnowing. But we're not there yet.
Super cool.
We're on the lookout, always paying attention to what her needs might be right now, and if we see some early signs of what her second signet is.
Okay.
So chapter 13. Now it is the actual threshing. This is part 2. And they go out to be bonded. Violet feels no connection going out into this, but her sister Mira did with Tiny. She knew then she felt a connection with Tiny before she went to threshing. I'm surprised that Violet didn't feel a connection with Indarna.
Which one's your dragon? The sexy one? Sorry. Indarna. I think there's a good chance that Violet actually is just not very aware of her own thoughts and feelings. The way that she interacts with Dain, the way that she interacts with Xaden, she seems frustrated by her own feelings because she seems to be a creature consumed by rationale. Obviously, I'm going to go ahead and say that sometimes it's a loose rationale for things, but she's not an emotionally intelligent character at this point.
I would agree, yeah. But she does recognize her emotions. It just seems like she often just doesn't like the emotions that she's having.
She kind of battles with it, but she doesn't take time to recognize the causation of the emotion. She takes time to acknowledge that she is having an emotion. Like where she gets that moment of jealousy, right? She's like, why do I feel jealous? She doesn't dwell on that any longer than that moment of just, why do I feel jealous that Xaden handed his knives to her? Like she doesn't go like, maybe I think I might actually like this guy. It's always just like,
wish I wasn't feeling this way.
Wish I didn't want to fuck him right now. And then as soon as he's out of eyesight, she doesn't think of him anymore. Like,
oh, wow, that's such a great point. She doesn't, does she?
He does not get brought up unless she's concerned that she's about to be murdered or he's right there. Those are the only 2 times that he comes up in her mind that we're aware of.
Huh. That's a really good point.
So I think she spends an awful lot of time just in logic. And I think that kind of explains why she's like, I didn't feel compelled, blah, 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 to go to any of these dragons, so on and so forth. Other than she did for Indarna, right? Because she's like, I need to fucking find her. And then they're like, we're going to kill the baby dragon. And she's like, now I really need to find her.
Yeah, like she does have a connection. She's just not recognizing that she has
She was ready to sacrifice her life for that tiny little dragon. And then she's like, I wasn't pulled any direction. You're like, you were. Actually, you just refused to acknowledge it.
In this scene, I originally thought she was truly only going to get one dragon and that it was Indarna. I'm like, this makes sense because the reason that they all didn't like Indarna is the same reasons people didn't like Violet. They're both small. They're both seen as weak. There's all these things. I'm like, they're a perfect match. How cute. And it's going to be a dragon that she's capable of riding. I didn't know that she couldn't ride Indarna yet, but...
Couldn't is such a strong word.
The first time reading this, I wish I could experience this again because I was in such shock. It was just incredible. Amazing.
Yeah.
Love it.
Taryn showing up was such a cool moment. Comparable to the other book when the Shadow Papa showed up.
I think what stood out to me was she didn't know that he was there. Like she knew he was there when he showed up, but she like turned around and he was there while he like spoke into her head and she has this moment of looking up at him. But I would assume a dragon of his size, you hear his wings beating miles away.
It's interesting you say that because she brings that up as they take off from the ground. How it's basically like sonic booms, his wings just slap in the air.
But yet he landed there.
Well, what I assume happened, I think he tunneled. Must be what happened. Because everybody seemed shocked that he showed up. And also, he's the largest dragon there. You're not going to see a big-ass black dragon flying across the afternoon sky. What? You guys are trained warriors. You're supposed to be observant people. And they're like, oh, he popped up out of nowhere. And be like, what? Excuse me? He had to be knocking down trees.
Yeah, because they weren't running away from him until he was like there in their face. I feel like you would know.
I think I would.
You better get out of there. Well, actually, that's not true because they want him. They want to be bonded to him. So it would make sense that they wouldn't run away if they saw him.
Yeah, but there would be a look on their face of, holy fuck, We're not going to murder this little golden dragon in front of the largest motherfucker out here.
They seem dumb enough to think that Terran would agree with them.
I think what happened is Terran just digleted his ass right up there.
Not.
He did. I think he just was tunneling, and we haven't heard a lot about this, but we'll see. Violet may get a patch. Vicious got dirt.
A little diglets.
A little diglet. All right, patch.
Instead of little diglets, it's little Indarna heads.
One little Terran. Yeah, I don't know. I think he just digleted his ass right up there. Nobody saw him or heard him coming. And like, he wasn't going to bond this year. Doesn't matter. This was a cool moment, no matter how you look at it.
It was so badass.
And he's speaking into her head. And honestly, I love that she was like, let's let Terran really sing and let Violet like look like a useless dummy, other than she was courageous, right? Oh, are we at the point in this where Violet is getting ready to battle the other three dudes?
Oh,
to
yeah.
Andarna.
Yeah.
So Violet beats them to Andarna. And then she's like, oh no, I've got to fight 3 armed men who collectively outweigh me by at least 200 pounds.
Ooh, yeah. They weigh more than that.
You by about 100 pounds alone.
Then
Violet
you add a whole other man.
Frail. You add, these men are described as big. Like they're big men. I'm just a regular sized Rudy, man. It cracked me up because I'm like, if each one of them is, let's say, 200 pounds, they're not even big men. They're just regular sized dudes. They're 200, 205. And she is described as being like 5 foot nothing and rail thin. She's probably 95 pounds.
Oh, I was putting her at like 110.
She said she has 0 curves.
Okay.
I'm like a 5 foot bod.
I don't know. I'm not good at this guessing game of weights. I do completely agree with you on the 200
she's
pounds.
110.
You got me on that one.
They outweigh me by at least 200 pounds collectively. I'm like, one of those motherfuckers probably almost outweighs you by 200 pounds individually. Like maybe not Tynan, because Tynan's a tiny man. Tynan may only contribute 50 pounds to this whole thing, but the other 2 are big dudes. I don't know. It just cracks me up because I'm imagining they're like 215 to 240 and just jacked. And she's like, they've got 200 pounds on me. I'm like, your math sucks. Like, it's crazy. That was it. That was my whole gripe.
I didn't even catch it because I was so excited for what was coming. I knew Terran was going to show up, and I was just so excited about Terran showing up.
Yeah, I agree. And then he digleted up in there.
He did not. We're not changing the story.
We didn't change anything. It didn't say he didn't diglet. I'm just saying. We didn't hear a wing flap is all I'm going to get.
Oh, wait. We're jumping ahead of ourselves because we got to this part where they show up. So Jack and crew are out to take out Andarna. She finds Andarna first. In this moment, she's telling Andarna to leave. And Andarna just swishes her tail, looking all cute.
Yeah, like cocking her head all goofy. Twisting it around at an unnatural angle. I imagine she was just like staring at her and then she was just looking at her upside down. It's real, like toothless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember that Andarna knows who Violet is? And I think she was having a moment of really excited and giddy because she has been waiting 600 years to meet Violet. And this was the moment where she meets. Well, it's her second time meeting Violet, but that she's having a moment of being bonded with a Violet.
Yes, and I think some of this is, it would be really easy to put the lens of maturity on Andarna right now, but she does not have.
Yeah, because she's still incredibly childish.
Yeah, she's a baby. She's like a toddler dragon right now. Like, yeah, because in the next one, she's kind of like teen dragon, where she's angsty and angry. So she's anywhere from toddler to young kid, right? She may be aware of who Violet is and the importance of that, but I think that's more of an instinctual awareness as opposed to a logical awareness.
What do you think's going through her head right now, though?
It's just like, hi. And she knows that Terran's about to diglet right up in there, and she's like, this is going to be hilarious.
It's going to be a fun time. Everybody watch.
It's really cool. Then she's like, you got to get out of here. You're going to get murdered. And she's like, I don't get murdered. I'm a golden dragon. And then she's just chilling. They come up to murder her, And she's like, hey, just breathe some fucking fire on him. And then Indarna looks at him and she's like, oh, fuck, she can't breathe fire.
And she doesn't have any claws.
She's like looking down and she's got these little soft paws. And she's like, paws. God damn it, she don't have claws. And she's like, well, her tail, she could dust them off or something with it.
Yes, that's all Indarna's good for at this
she's got
point.
teeth. She could bite them.
Yeah. Xaden tells them to reconsider. She has her spidey sense, and Sigale snarls, and they still push forward. And this is the moment earlier that I was talking about. We're surprised that they continue on.
There's no way Sigale is saying, back the fuck up. And these guys are like, I mean, but we're probably not going to die if we do it, right? Like, you are probably going to die.
Because they were holding Sigale to the same rules as Xaden. And why they would assume Sigale would follow any rules makes no sense to me.
Why do they assume Xaden would follow rules?
I don't know. Just because
he's a king of the marked ones. Of all the people you probably just shouldn't trust in the forest, especially when you're already doing something kind of wrong. And he could easily just be like, hey, I think a dragon got to him. I don't know. It wouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, because if he killed any of them, Sigale could just toast them and it would look like that's what happened.
The odds. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is an easy out.
Well, they continue on. They don't get the hint from Sigale, but Sigale doesn't do anything. I know that it's setting up for Terran showing up. Do you remember why Sigale didn't do anything and instead called Terran?
No. Do you?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you knew the answer.
Other than she is following the same rules as Xaden.
I think Xaden's like, hey, let's not fuck around. Let's see what happens. Because I think they knew that she wasn't going to be killed. You know what I mean?
They know what?
Well, Sigale knows where Terran is. Right?
Yeah.
She knows that Terran can handle some shit.
But why didn't Sigale do it?
Again, I think Sigale's like, oh, maybe there's repercussion or something. Or Xaden is saying, hey, Sigale, don't touch it. You and I are outside of this.
Yes. I think that's actually an answer that we get later even.
Oh, good.
Chapter 14, Xaden doesn't initially interfere. He just says Sigale isn't one to mess with because they're arguing with him about the rules and all of this stuff. And he's like, I'm not breaking any rules. I'm just narrating the situation. So Violet's fighting against 3 of them. And Xaden yells, look behind you. That's the narrating. I see it as him interfering at this point.
Mm-hmm. That is what you would have to consider that.
Xaden steps in and is about to truly interfere. And that's the moment Terran shows up.
Yeah. Terran's like, get back, Tan1.
When I first read this, I thought that Xaden is just so in love with Violet and that he just wants to protect her because he loves her and can't lose her already. And that he's just been keeping his feelings a secret from us this whole time.
This whole 14 chapters.
All 14
in the
chapters.
Enemies Turn Lovers story. 14 chapters in. That's as far as he could make it. He really blew his load early, didn't he? I love it. Like, oh, man.
Well, turns out that was wrong.
I mean, to be fair, you could be also correct. He does seem to value her.
Yeah, but he's not like, I want to sacrifice my life for her. Dain actually has more of that.
Yeah, but I would also add, no part of this is sacrificing.
Okay,
Xaden's
true.
life.
True.
Xaden easily murders them all with shadows.
True.
Like, oops, I accidentally broke all their necks. I don't know.
Terran drops in. She is up to his ankle.
Yeah.
And I saved a video for you later to show you the size difference of fan art where some people will have Terran the wrong size and then people that draw him the correct size. And it's really badass.
Yeah, because Violet's almost not even in those pictures. Because scale-wise, if he's that tall, dragons are much longer than they are tall. Did you pick up on when Violet and Rhiannon are talking about the wyvern stories, right? The wyvern are larger than dragons.
Are they?
Well, from the stories when those two are talking, that is not a consistent thing in the book. The wyvern are smaller than dragons in the book.
But in the fables?
In the fables, they're larger than dragons.
And we don't know this yet, but we learned that each location has their own form of fables.
So who the fuck? Well, do they, or do they all come from a common ancestry, right? The scribes of this area decided that this was preservable. The scribes of this area decided that was preservable. You get bits and pieces, right? Kind of becomes a Quran Bible situation.
I don't know if this is a trusted source, but this is saying that the wyvern are about the same size as dragons, if not larger.
Okay, because that is what Riorson says. But from the impression I was under while the wyvern are clinging to the dragons later on in this, but they are smaller.
Huh. I didn't pay attention to that.
I thought they were closer to a griffin size.
Same. That's what I thought.
Because of the way that they are clinging onto the dragons, right, and like biting them on the neck, but they're like attached to them.
Yeah, it
almost
seemed
like a leech.
Yeah, I was picturing almost like snake-like, just.
They're kind of like salamanders.
Yes.
Wings.
Yeah.
Gross.
Okay, they're much bigger than I thought. So Taryn drops in. She's up to his ankle. Taryn says, "Step aside, Silver One."
Yeah.
And it's just so amazing.
Yeah, but we need that guy's voice for that. Or this was the other controversial thing I was going to say. For the graphic audio, Rebecca Soler does Taryn.
That is controversial because I don't agree with that.
Do you think the person that does it in that graphic audio is better?
I haven't gotten that far yet in it.
Okay. When we get there, I want you to examine that possibility. I'm not saying she does a perfect Taryn. I'm saying
she does the sarcasm amazingly.
Her inflections are perfect.
She's a great voice actor.
She is. And I would say if you're not going to get somebody that makes Taryn imposing and sarcastic and kind of an Alfred, if that makes sense. Like in Batman. Like Batman's got the gravelly, voice thing going on. But he's not the one that you really are like, fuck, don't mess with him. It's Alfred, right? He's the imposing figure. Am I wrong on this?
I think it depends on which Batman series we're watching.
Tell me an Alfred that is not imposing.
I did not think the Dark Knight Alfred was imposing. That was the most recent one we watched.
I think so. I see where you're coming from. I disagree in the aspect of if at some point he had needed to do something combative, you would not have been like, well, that doesn't seem like Alfred. You'd have been like, oh, they're about to get their shit rocked because Alfred's around.
I have never thought that. I always saw him as resourceful.
I always saw Alfred as like, Alfred's actually the badass and Batman's the guy in the tights.
I saw him as the go-to person. If you need something, you go to Alfred.
Distinguished as well, I would say. And I think that's what's missing from these other Terran voices. They're focused on masculinity, and there's a lot to be said for distinguished.
And on the masculinity point, Terran is very different than all of the other dragons in his values and his views on things. And Violet constantly tries to point this out, and he's just like, don't tell me how I should feel, act, any of these things.
There isn't machismo.
No, there isn't.
He has pride. It's not this overly masculine. I mean, like, obviously you expect a big, deep, gravelly voice, but you want it to be regal with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's so few people who could do that so well. I will find somebody with that voice and I will send it to you. Be like, that person should be Taryn.
Okay.
Because at this point, Rebecca Soler beats the snippet I heard from the graphic audio of Taryn.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll have to get to that point before our next episode. So he tells Violet to step aside. This is the moment when Tynan is finally toasted for his behavior. Taryn tells her, "You're bleeding. Stop it."
Who does that mirror? What does Xaden say to her when she makes it through the gauntlet and gets done arguing with that lady and wins her argument?
Right. To wrap her hands.
Because he says, "You're leaking. Do something about it."
Oh my God, they are so similar.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Taryn is just amazing. Why I have a crush on Taryn too.
I was going to say, honestly, this is why I think Xaden's acceptable in this. I like Taryn a lot.
This is kind of nice because if the next books we lose Xaden as a love interest or anything with Xaden.
Fuck Taryn?
No, we still have Taryn.
Good.
No,
well, still, where you're going, I'm still not comfortable with.
No, I just meant we can still enjoy that type of humor through someone else and overall just love Taryn.
Taryn is going to be a party girl in her 20s.
Yeah, she's going to be a young adult then.
Yas, queen.
And she argues with him, and I can't get over the audacity, but it really shows how good of a fit that they're going to be, that she just comfortably talks to him.
They've got buddy cop energy.
Yeah.
It's a buddy cop thing, and I like it, but also I'm just like, God damn it. Violet deserves to be dead.
Oh, no.
Like, I like that she isn't, but I'm saying all of the things we've been told and she has been told to not do, she's just like doing them. Like, we don't question dragons. Immediately begins questioning not any dragon.
Yeah, she's like, you don't want me. You don't want this. Stop what you're doing. And he's like, don't tell me what to do. Get up here. You're embarrassing me.
Yeah, and then she's like, I'm holding on to the seat. And then she immediately falls off and he like catches her gracefully and carefully in his claws. Right? He's holding her for a bit. I think I'd have needed brown pants that day. I'd have shit myself.
Because I'm pretty sure he tosses her up and then he gets her on his back and then he
drops and then barrel rolls underneath her.
Yeah.
And lands her right back in the saddle, right? And then she grabs onto the pommel, which is just a hardened section. Dragons were made to be ridden, is what we've learned from this, right? Like there's a pommel, there's a saddle, they've got it all. But he's like, don't worry, I won't let you fall. He uses his magic shadowness to hold her on to him so he can do some evasive maneuvers and stuff. She's like, well, it wouldn't be hard to hold on if you weren't busy flying like a crazy. He's like, bitch, you're going to throw up if I do something crazy. Like, you are so bad at this. He's like, haven't you been training? She's like, on smaller dragons. He's like, I don't think that's a valid excuse.
And then he shows off, which I love. He's like,
Yes.
well, be ready. We need to show off because he's like, I'm that guy. I have to do this.
I think they're all expected to show off that, hey, this person is worthy, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of how the dragons test these people.
Oh, I saw it as Taryn is a bit of a diva.
I think I would take it that way if it wasn't for like, there's a red dragon doing the same thing. Its rider falls off and the red dragon's like just watching him splat on the ground. Like they're all kind of doing this. And I think it's their method of being like, oh, see, my person's worthy. Look at my person can hold on.
Couldn't the other dragons see what Taryn's doing by holding her in?
I don't know if they have magic eyes. I don't know.
Well, they learn later because Violet continues to fall out of the saddle.
To Dain's credit, she's not a dragon rider. The dragon is handling everything. She is not winning this. She's a dragon defender. That's what she's really good at.
Do you think that if she was on a smaller dragon, she would do fine, though?
No.
Oh.
No, Violet is weak. Her being on a large dragon is not the reason that she's unable to hold on. Now, I understand where he's like, grasp tighter with your legs, but that also means that this section of a dragon is very narrow, right? So if you get on a horse or rough stock, right? Like you get on a bull, a wider bull, if you have longer legs, is a little easier, right? The longer your legs are, obviously, there's a bit of an advantage. The advantage is reduced with the width of the bull. The idea of it being narrow bull, long legs is ideal because you can get underneath, you know what I mean? The way the shape works. They're trying to apply this logic to dragons that are fucking enormous. So I also would like to know what this section of a dragon really looks like, but also it's like a dirt bike or anything, right? Like pull in with your knees, right? You're gripping that way.
I'm just thinking of how uncomfortable that would be between your legs. Like you would just walk away with bruises. I don't understand why everyone doesn't have saddles.
I'm trying to think of, as a dude riding this dragon.
Yes.
That, to me, would be the wildest part of this. Like, oh, you hit turbulence and now you can't have children. What the fuck is going on around here? I don't know. I think I want to see how this works. I'm assuming the way they're designed is like there's a little cup or something up there to keep your junk from. Because even like you're riding a horse, like that's a brutal part of shit.
I don't think there's anything Oh, and then we have the iconic moment of, I know exactly who and what you are, Violet Sorrengail.
Yes.
And again, just amazing. I just love Taryn. Taryn is my favorite.
I agree.
Just love the love.
My favorite character.
I also like Sigale, but just because of how much she loves Taryn also.
I like Sigale because she's kind of a bitch. I like that about characters. She's just ornery.
So he locks her in. Taryn shows off. Lots of sarcasm. I still think it's because he's a show-off, not because it's a thing of testing your writer, because even during training, Taryn is always up front. And when the other writers are doing simple things, he's like, well, because I'm me, I need to do this with you.
Yeah, well, he's famous within their kind, too. Within dragon kind, he's famous.
She heads in to give his name. He chose her for being the smartest and for saving Indarna. I wrote that down because I'm probably going to forget and ask you later and be like, why did he choose her?
Yeah, because she's smart and courageous.
She's the smartest.
And courageous. That's a big thing.
Very big.
Otherwise, he would have, went and found a scribe and hop on.
And Darna speaks to her. That should have been a clue to past me when I originally listened to this. I was just like, oh, I'm with Violet. And Darna, you need to stop doing that. Follow the rules. I was just falling for everything.
And Darna only spoke to her to give her a name.
No, she said, maybe I was saving you.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay, I didn't pick up on that.
And I don't actually understand what that means.
Maybe Indarna was saving Violet.
Maybe it's because Indarna knows Violet when she was in the egg, and she's actually referencing something about other information that she knows about Violet.
Well, I took it more as hey, these guys were going to murder you also. Luckily, I was there, so Taryn was there babysitting and ended up circumventing your own death.
That is way more logical. Thank you. That makes way more sense. As she's walking up, she sees her mom, and she has nothing positive to say about what she thinks her mom thinks of her, as confusing as that was. What do you think Mama Sorrengail is thinking when she saw Violet come in on Taryn?
I think it's just pride that she even got any dragon. I think the fact that it's Taryn is probably really surprising to her. I don't think Violet's correct in any part of this for how her mom's feeling. I think it's angsty teenager thoughts getting the best of her.
And I'm not used to reading books where the character is wrong about someone, just completely wrong. Everything that she's saying about her mom, she thinks that her mom doesn't really believe that Taryn is bonded to her, or that her mom doesn't care or doesn't care how she's doing. Her mom doesn't ask how Violet is doing as she's limping or any of these things.
She's not supposed to yet. Her mom's her far superior officer and said, I will not be able to acknowledge you for 3 years. It's the last thing her mother said to her.
That's a good point.
And also, I don't think that she doesn't believe Taryn is bonded to her. We haven't been shown one example of a dragon fake out where the dragon's like, oh, here, yeah, I'll give you a ride up there.
Well,
and then they're like, give him a fake name.
And I think this is coming from when someone was about to say it, she's bonded to so-and-so, and her mom stops them and says, have her say it. And Violet was interpreting that to be, my mom probably doesn't even think that I'm bonded to him.
Yeah, which, like I said, I think is just ridiculous. Because also, everybody knows his name is Taryn. They don't know it's Tarnock, blah, 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 all this other stuff. Neither does anybody else there know that. The only people who know the dragon's full name are the people who it is spoken to and the recorder.
Correct.
So, how would it make any sense for somebody else to utter his full name?
I took it as Violet was misinterpreting what her mom was feeling in that moment.
I agree. And I think she misinterpreted it in such a way that it wasn't logical. It was an emotional response.
Yes, because I'm sure her mom wasn't feeling those things. Her mom wasn't able to speak to her. Her mom wasn't able to treat her like her daughter in that moment, only as a cadet. And she wouldn't ask any other cadet how they were doing as they were limping in.
The other big thing being, don't say it, let her say it, would be, it's exactly the same as every other cadet has done.
And almost a form of respect to Violet.
That's what I'm saying, is it's treating her exactly like every other cadet.
And this chapter ends with us hearing Indarna's full name.
Yes, Indarna Ukulele.
I don't remember what it was
Euclid
either.
or something like that. Euclid? Yeah. It was a cool moment.
I love this book so much. This was another favorite chapter. I know that I said another one was a favorite chapter, but this chapter is also really great.
This is a great one to end on.
Anything with Taryn and Indarna is a favorite chapter.
I agree. 100% agree. More Taryn.
Do you have any notes?
More Taryn.
Yeah, just more Taryn. This is all I want.
I want an entire book. It's more or less just Taryn.
An entire series about Taryn and Sigale.
Yeah, I would take that too. The real Empyrean series.
To hear all of the private conversations that they have been having this entire time.
I don't even need to know all that.
Oh, well, okay, that's not what I meant.
That's more what you're saying. I'm here for the fantasy, not the romance, Adri.
Fantasy romance, dragons.
Dinosaurs.
We're almost there. Just a little bit farther.
No, it was honestly, I really enjoy this book too. And I'm really excited because now Violet starts to develop into the person who I like reading about.
Now we're going to be even more paranoid, looking for signs of a second signet.
I'm leaving most of it up to you. I'm mostly just enjoying the book. I'm not really deep. I can't dissect it as well as you do.
I think that I want to look up what the fan theories are and be watching out for all of them. And I think I might have a better idea of which signet seems most likely.
I agree. I'll be on the lookout too. I'm not going to do as much research as you will.
That's fine. I love you.
I love you.
You're my bestie.
You're my bestie. It was a great time. We had fun. Now get out and go live your life.
No, wait. No. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate and love you all. Please follow us here, TikTok or Instagram at Yarros.Podcast.
And then go live your life.
Bye.
Bye. Get out. We're done. This was Daggers and Shadow Daddies. Now it's my time. Toodaloo. It was fun for us. I hope it was fun for you. But that's all we've got. Goodbye. Come back in a few days. We love you.